Sometime around 1750 BC, in the Sumerian city of Ur, a copper merchant named Nasir conducted what is now the most famous bad business transaction in human history. He sold, in advance, a quantity of substandard copper ingots to a man named Nani. Nani complained. He complained on a clay tablet in Akkadian cuneiform, both sides, and that tablet now sits in the British Museum, where it holds the Guinness World Record for oldest known written customer grievance, and where it has spent the last decade being made into approximately 10 million internet memes. What the memes generally miss, because they are busy being memes, is that Nasir does not appear to have been a sleazy individual operator who got away with one big scam. He was, by all available evidence, a Tony Soprano figure who got away with all of his scams, repeatedly, for decades, and kept the receipts. Ur was a major trading hub on the Persian Gulf. The only structural problem being that the city had no metal of its own. To buy copper, an Ur merchant had to dispatch a representative 600 miles down the Gulf to Dilmun, which is now Bahrain, where the only people authorized to sell copper were the Alik Tilmun, or Dilmun Travelers, a guild that functioned as a cartel. Nasir was a senior member. He also, according to surviving tax records, supplied copper directly to the royal palace at Ur, which means the king of Sumer was personally dependent on Nasir to keep the metal flowing. So when Nasir's name surfaces in somebody's complaint layer, you are not looking at an aggrieved customer slamming a small-time fraud. You are looking at a guy with the king upstairs, the cartel around him, and presumably a few large gentlemen at home. His name, in the original Akkadian, translates to Ea is his warden. Ea was the Mesopotamian god of, among other things, wisdom. The wisdom god was apparently elsewhere. Nani's letter, being the famous one, gets quoted in full all over the internet, but the relevant beats are these. Nani had paid in advance for fine quality copper ingots, and received what we may charitably describe as some quality copper ingots, possibly 2 quality, definitely not fine quality. He sent his messenger, an entirely innocent gentleman named Sitsin, over to Nasir's place to discuss the matter. And Nasir told Sitsin, paraphrasing only mildly, "Take it or leave it. Get out of my face." Sitsin then walked home through hostile territory empty-handed several times. Sitsin and I have something in common, which is that we have both bled for other people's bad copper. He deserved better than he got, and frankly, so did I. The detail that gives the whole game away, though, is buried later in the same letter. Nani mentions that he has paid 1,080 pounds of copper directly to the royal palace as a tax on Nasir's behalf, plus another 1,080 pounds paid by his business partner, Sumiabum, over a ton of metal that Nani was personally responsible for delivering to the Sumerian government to cover Nasir's tax bill, at the same time that Nasir was actively scamming him. The modern equivalent is paying your slumlord's water bill so the building doesn't get condemned, while the slumlord declines to fix the toilet that has been broken since you moved in, and continues to steal your mail. You do not, in 1750 BC or in any other year of recorded human history, kill the guy who pays the king's bills. Nani was also not alone. When Sir Leonard Woolley excavated what is believed to have been Nasir's house in the 1920s, he found Nani's tablet. He also found more. There was an angry letter from a customer named Arbitaram, who was tired of waiting for his copper. There was one from a guy named Imgerson, who actually wrote on a clay tablet, "Do you not know how tired I am?" which makes Imgerson technically the original Imgur user, with a support ticket that has been open for 3,800 years. There was one from Appa, who needed his copper in order that my heart shall not be troubled, which I think we can all agree is the most Sumerian thing anyone has ever said. And there was one from a guy named Iliadinam, who told Nasir on the official Akkadian record that the work he had done was so good. Yes, with drawn-out vowels. Sarcasm. Scholars have verified the multiple repeated vowels appear on the actual tablet, which means the first recorded use of sarcasm in human history was directed at Nasir by a customer trying to get him to deliver some copper. Nasir kept all of these tablets. He kept them, he filed them, and he stacked them in his own house.
Hello out there in internet land. I'm Lily, the editor at The Wise Wolf, and I just wanted to steal a moment of your time to urge you to subscribe to our god-awful channel. Otherwise, my professor is going to press charges for breaking into his office to shoot this clip. Thanks. Bye now.
The natural question is why none of these aggrieved gentlemen ever did anything more substantial than write angry letters. Why Nanny, a wealthy merchant with employees and resources and access to large men with clubs, did not simply send some of those large men over to retrieve his copper and possibly Nasir's teeth? Why Sit-Sin kept walking through enemy territory alone with a clay tablet instead of with 6 armed friends in a wagon? Why anyone ever took no for an answer from this man? The answer is the cartel and the king. If you crossed the Alec Tillman, the ancient world version of an Italian gangster, the only legal source of copper in the city stopped selling to you, and you were out of business. If you crossed Nasir specifically, the palace lost its supplier, which became your problem and not his. Whatever muscle he kept on retainer at home, and the evidence is that he kept some, was reinforced by all of that institutional weight. You did not start a war with this guy over bad ingots. You wrote a letter. You hoped on some basic foundational level that being right would matter. It did not. It rarely does. Which is why the kept letters are not the records of a fastidious archivist. They were trophies. Every furious tablet from Nani and Imgur-Sin and Appa and Arvaturum and Ili Idnum that ended up on Nasir's shelf was, in effect, a Polaroid of someone he had successfully scammed and faced 0 consequences for scamming, and he liked having them where he could see them. The Bronze Age's first known organized crime archive sat in a mud brick house at the address now cataloged by Woolley's team as Member 1 Old Street, where it remained while the Sumerians fell to the Babylonians fell to the Assyrians fell to the Persians fell to Alexander the Great, who died at 32 of probably typhoid, and on through Romans and caliphates and crusades, and the entire collapse and reconstruction of human civilization several times over, until in the 1920s, a British guy in a pith helmet dug Nasir's trophy collection out of the sand. Things did not, in the end, go well for Nasir professionally. Woolley's notes record that the next-door neighbor literally absorbed part of his house into theirs over the course of his career, which means his home physically shrank as his business declined, the way your security deposit shrinks every time the slumlord finds a new reason to keep it. He pivoted, first into textiles, then into real estate, then into land speculation. Finally, in what may be the most poetically just career arc in all of recorded human commerce, Nasir ended his career selling used clothes, which makes the world's first known commercial fraudster also, posthumously, the world's first known thrift store proprietor. A noble line of work whose modern descendants include the guy at the flea market who insists the broken Rolex is vintage. Oh, and one last thing. Around 2015, 4 millennia after Nasir's death, his story went viral. There are now, conservatively, 10 million memes about him circulating online, and almost every one of them features a photograph of a Sumerian statue with very large startled eyes and a long beard and his hands folded in prayer. That statue is not Nasir. It is from a completely different archaeological dig site called Tel Asmar. It depicts an unknown Sumerian worshipper. It was made approximately 1,000 years before Nasir was born. The internet has spent the last decade publicly humiliating an entirely innocent praying guy who is not Nasir, has never been Nasir, and has had no opportunity whatsoever to defend himself.